Welcome back to Sunday Night Spookies, the podcast dedicated to getting killed in the woods. My name is Lex.
And I'm Salty.
And this is episode 8, what would have been our on-location investigation of Dead Man's Hollow and Green Man's Tunnel. But
as you can probably tell, we didn't investigate those two.
No, circumstances changed drastically upon our arrival to
Pennsylvania sucks. Long story short.
Yeah, if you live there, sorry, but I'm sure that you also know that.
There's no way they don't.
Things did not go according to plan, and you know what? That's okay, because sometimes that's gonna happen.
You know what? It is. However, so we went to Pennsylvania because your eyebrows microbladed there.
Yes, I do.
I don't know if I'm allowed to disclose that information.
You are at the Glam Bar in Mount Lebanon.
And so we decided that if you're gonna go out there, we might as well make like a spooky trip out of it and stay at one of Pennsylvania's quote unquote most haunted hotels and visit the quote unquote most haunted area in the nation.
Dead Man's Hollow.
Dead Man's Hollow. But our trip was pretty much just full of mishap and disappointment the whole time.
Yep, this is true. However, we are still going to give you a little bit of spooky history and...
Yeah, we're still going to do like episodes about the hotel and the 2 locations we were supposed to investigate just because, you know what, that's what we had planned. So
here we are.
Here we are. So this episode's going to be about Dead Man's Hollow and Green Man's Tunnel. And we're going to start with Dead Man's Hollow. So the whole thing is called Dead Man's Hollow. It's a 450-acre conservation area along the Youghiogheny River near McKeesport, Pennsylvania. So located on the conservation area are remnants of 2 industrial businesses that were once booming in the area, the Bowman Brickyard and the Union Sewer Pipe Company. These companies were both started out in the 1880s, and they ran successfully until a massive fire destroyed both of them in 1920. And now today they're just like... If you hear very loud snoring, I really hope you can hear it. It's my pit bull. She's laying on the couch in the basement. They're being good pups. I didn't want to put them in the kennels. Anyway, so that's what that noise is. So both of them are pretty much destroyed. They're just kind of like walls and...
cement walls with much spray paint.
Yeah, much graffiti. Now, Dead Man's Hollow is supposed to be one of the most haunted areas in the nation. And there's 1.5 million stories about why it's haunted. The one that I have is the quote unquote the original story why it started the reputation as being haunted. In 1874, there was a large group of teenage boys walking through the area, and they stumbled upon a dangling, decaying body that was hung from a noose. So obviously it was pretty freaked out. They called the authorities, and the guy was never identified, and no one was convicted of the crime. It wasn't a suicide. It was set up to look like when he had other wounds that was like, definitely didn't inflict those on himself.
Right.
And some people believe that the KKK was involved, but the KKK wasn't very prevalent in the area at that time, but very well could have been. And then ever since that incident, there's, like I said, just a ton of stories of people, like a lot of crimes happened in the area. Once that story kind of got out and people realized it was a very secluded area for crime, that's where people went to murder. There's been a lot of gunfights, explosions, and it's also been the hotspot for a lot of unexplained drownings and a lot of unexplained lightning strikes, which is not wrong.
Right.
So Sunday morning, we went to find Dead Man's Hollow. And unbeknownst to us, there's 2 entrances, and we went to the wrong entrance. Not the wrong entrance, but we ended up going to like I guess you would call it the back of the conservation park.
Yeah.
And we ended up hiking, I don't know, for about like half an hour, 45 minutes, would you say?
Probably closer to an hour.
Yeah. And
we were in there for a hot minute.
The chance of rain wasn't that high.
No, it wasn't supposed to rain for a few hours.
And we got caught in a crazy thunderstorm. And we don't have waterproof equipment or waterproof bags because it wasn't supposed to rain for a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
So we got caught in this massive storm, and the thunder was so loud, and we were hiking on top of foothills, walking almost completely vertical. It was terrible. And there was trees that were charred, and strips that were, you could see fire had gone through because it was everything was charred up on top.
Mm-hmm. There was a million trees chopped off, not even chopped off, broken off halfway.
Right. And it was
lightning.
It wasn't even in a spot where somebody very well could have just set fire to that.
No.
It was random trees that just looked like they were set on fire.
The length of the tree too. Whatever was left in the ground was charred.
Yep.
Leaves were charred. And no one's camping out here, so it's not people are trying to just make a campfire.
No flat area to be camped on.
You're not allowed to camp there anyway, so.
So we ended up getting caught in this crazy thunderstorm, and we just turned back because we couldn't.
At that point, we had to make a decision about our safety.
Yeah, especially seeing the charred trees, and the thunder was not letting up. It was loud and right above us, and we're you know what? Our equipment's not waterproof. We don't have an umbrella or anything to hide under.
Right. We're in an area that's very well known for having a god-awful amount of lightning strikes in a thunderstorm.
And just unexplained tragedy.
Right.
So we're
It had gotten really dark, and the thunder had gotten really loud.
Yeah.
And it started off as a nice mist.
Yeah, a nice cool mist on our, through our sweaty hike. But just kidding. So, and that was our last day in Pennsylvania. We headed out after that, headed back to Michigan. So that really sucked. Definitely, I don't want to visit Pennsylvania again, but I definitely want to go back because, there was a few websites that we were reading that said it's the most haunted area in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
There are multiple places say it's so haunted, and maybe for a milestone of the podcast, we'll go back.
Yeah.
But you have some other stories and experiences, right?
Yeah. Well, you had already talked about the group of boys who found the man hanging from the tree, but a lot of other things have happened there. And so it was when Robert George McClure's dry goods shop in McKeesport had been robbed. George McClure went on a hunt to find those that were responsible for the crime, and he found them inside of Dead Man's Hollow. He fired shots at the criminals, who actually fired back, and he was killed in the encounter.
Brilliant.
7 years later, a gang leader by the name of Ward McConkey was convicted of George McClure's murder and hanged for the crime in the courtyard of the Allegheny County Jail. A newspaper reported that McConkey's last words were, "All I have to say, gentlemen, is that you hang me because you think I know something about the murder of George McClure and won't squeal, and the people of McKeesport want to see me hanged, but I'm innocent."
Oh.
A white cap was placed over his face, and just before the trap was sprung, he said, "Goodbye, murderers, goodbye."
Wow, he's a sassy devil, isn't he?
Well, it kind of sounds to me like he didn't do it. Maybe he did, though. I don't know. You don't go on a long tangent like that if you did do it. You know what I'm saying?
You could.
Maybe. I don't know.
If you've really convinced yourself that you haven't,
Right.
But then you got some other issues.
In 1883, there was the explosion that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. 4 workmen at George Fleming's stone quarry in Dead Man's Hollow were killed when they were attempting to thaw frozen explosives by an open flame. The explosives ignited, and the blast killed at least 2 of the men instantly. I understand.
Whose idea was that? Because they might have just deserved that.
I understand the
need to thaw them.
I understand the effort behind it.
A for effort.
The Wheeling Register reported this story, and the article states that the workmen did arrive at the quarry and find their explosive frozens, but decided to place them near a fire that had already been built for their personal warmth.
Here's the thing. Explosives are dangerous anyway, right? But why couldn't they just put it in their coat? Because theoretically you need a spark to light the explosives.
Theoretically.
So if if you're going to put them somewhere
Like your body warmth.
Right. Like, it's going to take a lot longer, but you're not going to get blown up unless you're smoking or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God.
It was two brothers, David and George, a man named Noble, and another unidentified man. David was closest to the fire at the time of the explosion, and he was killed instantly. George was found near death and left there.
Oh.
While the first to respond waited for a surgeon to arrive. He did not survive. The unidentified man received burns and was not expected to survive. And Noble was severely burned on his face and body, but was expected to recover.
Did he ever recover?
It appears so.
All right, we're just going to go with that.
It doesn't say that he died, so...
Hopefully he learned from his or his friend's stupidity.
Right, that was not a good idea.
In any way, shape, or form.
Explosives by an open flame.
Yep. Just set them right here. They'll thaw, boys.
Well, thaw they did.
Very quickly and loudly.
It's also said that Dead Man's Hollow was the location of a hidden treasure.
Hidden treasure.
Yes.
We should have brought a shovel.
Had I known about this ahead of time, I would have. Two men robbed a bank in Clareton and met in the hollow to split the money. One of the men shot the other to keep it.
Good plan.
And as he was exiting the woods, he stashed the money in a secret hiding place. It's believed that he was discovered at the opening of the woods and gunned down by lawmen. And some people think that the money is still somewhere in the hollow. But this story is undocumented. But a university archivist, Thomas White, explained that it was common for newspapers to avoid printing certain stories so that they remained business friendly in the public eye.
Oh.
And a story like that would have damaged the reputation of the bank and her other businesses.
Wow.
So they're not saying it didn't happen.
Shovel.
They're not saying it didn't happen.
But,
they're just saying that they didn't document that happened.
And it was common not to document that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to go to the Dead Man's Hollow in Pennsylvania, bring a shovel.
Metal detector. Oh, yeah.
Let's invest.
In 1887, Edward Woods drowned in the nearby river and washed ashore at Dead Man's Hollow. Some people think that it was because of foul play and believe his spirit still haunts the area. And what we do know is true about that is that Edward Woods was a 74-year-old man from Elizabeth Township who was crossing the river on the McClure Ferry, and he did, in fact, lose his balance, and he fell into the river. So that's a true one. Whether or not
he washed up in the hollow,
or if it was foul play,
yeah,
we don't know for sure.
Or if he even haunts, because we didn't get to investigate. I'm fine.
That's fine. We're not mad. In 1905, Mike Seiko was working at the Union Sewer Pipe Company, which you talked about earlier, when he was killed in an elevator accident, which the story is also true. It happened on September 25th of 1905. He pulled the rope to lower the elevator, but it began to rise instead. And so while it was rising, he decided to attempt the jump onto the elevator because he really wanted to reach the second floor.
Gotta reach that second floor.
But his body became wedged between the second floor ceiling and the floor of the elevator.
No.
Yeah, he was rushed to
the stairs.
He was rushed to the hospital, but died before he got there. And this one's not a death, but it is said that there is a massive snake that lives inside of Dead Man's Hollow. An elderly man by the name of Charles Brown went for a walk on a hot day in August of 1893. He took with him a walking stick and chose a shady path for his stroll, and he heard a strange noise in the bushes, and he saw what he said was a snake that was over 40 feet long.
Damn!
He fainted when he saw it, and when he regained consciousness, that's when he ran into town to tell everyone about it. When I first read this, I was like, this guy's probably just making it up or imagining things, because there's a lot of trees.
And a lot of vines and foliage, and...
It's just, it would be very easy for your eyes to play that kind of trick on you.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
There were numerous reports dating back to the 1860s, so 33 years before he even brought it up.
We didn't see a snake, but I kind of wish
No.
we would have, because I definitely would have attempted to befriend it.
No.
What do you think its name would be?
The basilisk.
No. I think I'm going to name it Delilah.
Okay. Well.
Delilah the snake.
So a lot of people saw a 30 or 40 foot long snake in that area, not just one person. So that's a little bit interesting. And the snake kind of became the local Loch Ness monster of the area. The facts of this are that there is no physical evidence to support the claims of a giant snake, but locals suspect that the legend began when the wooded area was popular among moonshiners.
Oh.
And they say that they probably spread the rumors themselves to keep people away from their little stills. Yeah.
Wow. I could definitely see it happening. Delilah doesn't exist.
So,
well, we don't know that, but.
Right. So, Dead Man's Hollow kind of has a rich history.
Very varied history.
Yeah. Lots of opportunity for there to be paranormal activity.
Yeah, I definitely want to go back and actually find the buildings. Or there's like an enchanted staircase. That's like a stone staircase that's there that we didn't find either. I would definitely like to go back. But I definitely want to actually get to investigate this place.
Yeah. I wish that we would have been able to, but it was really just, we had to make a snap decision.
Split decision. And I really didn't want to get struck by lightning.
No, and there were so many trees that were obviously hit by lightning.
Yeah, obviously,
it just was like, I mean, it's huge. Of course, lightning's going to
either
hit there.
they're struck by lightning or somebody's going around with a packet of matches and then putting out the fire when the tree is done.
Yeah.
Like,
it's gotta be.
Because it was just random trees throughout that were charred. Mm-hmm. Like, there wasn't a trail continuing. Like, it wasn't just... There was one large area that looked like it had been on fire for a minute.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was just these random trees.
Mm-hmm. And that, I think I said it had, 8 miles of trails?
Yeah, over 8 miles of trails.
Definitely a lot of opportunity to get lost.
Oh, especially like in the rain and how dark it was from the clouds. Like,
there was
scary.
I mean, the only reason we knew where we were going was because there was markers on trees and like kind of landmarks to know where we were going.
Very few markers on trees though, so I wouldn't rely, that's what I want, on the tree markers. Like, you definitely want to have Google Maps pulled up and zoomed in and like
make sure you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, really pay attention to where you're going.
It's very disorienting.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But a very beautiful place. I really can't wait to go back there.
And actually see what's going on.
I tried to find experiences that people would have there on like the paranormal side. I couldn't really find anything. A lot of people were saying that they would hear like screams or footsteps, kind of like the basic paranormal things that you would hear and see. I did watch a YouTube video of some boys that went there, and I think one of them had like scratches on him, and they saw a figure on a thermal camera. But as far as I could tell through my research, it didn't really seem like there was anything like astronomically paranormal.
Yeah, and it like, I didn't find anything either in my research where people are like, this is my experience of what I did and what happened.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be, in my opinion, probably mostly residual.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm thinking too.
Because just with like the factories and the fires, and
the quick tragic deaths.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think there could be some spirits wandering around there in the dark of night. I would never go there at night.
Oh, no.
If you decide to go there, please do be very careful.
Yeah, like, because it's, like you said, it's very disorienting.
Mm-hmm. There's drop-offs.
Some places the trails go, like, almost vertically up. Mm-hmm. Or you have to, like, grasp onto the trees to hike yourself up the, like, trail that's there.
Yep.
So it's, like, it's a fun hike. It's very challenging, and it's, like, cool to do, but... Man, I would never go at night. I'd just get so lost. Mm-hmm. So lost.
If you've been there, let us know what your experiences were, and we can share those.
Yeah, like we can make a little Instagram post about it, or Facebook post out. Mm-hmm. Like if you have any really cool experiences, let us know.
Yeah. The other place that we attempted to go to, we did try.
We did try, yeah.
To go there. Green Man's Tunnel or Green Man Tunnel.
Yeah. When we looked up Green Man's, plural, tunnel, it took us to a park. Mm-hmm. And there was a trail, and we went down the trail for a little bit. There was like a little side trail because it was like a paved bike trail almost. And there was a small walking path through the woods, and we went on that for a little bit, and we followed it to the trail end, and we couldn't find it. And it was getting like super dark. We wanted to head it was like a 2-hour drive back to the hotel, so we just decided to leave and we'd try again. But when I typed in Green Man Tunnel into Google, it took me to a spot that was like 2 miles away. So that matters.
Right. The apostrophe S should not be there.
Right.
And that makes sense for the story too, because it's about the Green Man.
Right. Speaking of the story, very interesting. First of all, we never went back to this place. We were going to after Dead Man's Hollow. The thunderstorm was still going. By that point, it was like early afternoon, and we had like a 6.5-hour drive back to Michigan. It was just...
We're very sorry to disappoint.
Very sorry to disappoint. I'm disappointed that we didn't go, but the circumstances of this trip were just freaking weird.
Yep.
Stay tuned for, I think it's episode 10 where we talk about the hotel we're in. Stay tuned for that one, because that one's kind of a shit show too. Anyway, so the history of the Green Man Tunnel is super interesting. At first glance, the legend is that the tunnel is very popular with locals. It's associated with somebody called Charlie No Face, or the Green Man. And it was said that there was a man who was an electrical worker. He was working on a power line, ended up getting electrocuted, and he melted his face off and died right then and there at the tunnel. However, that's not entirely true. There's actually a Green Man. This man, his real name was Raymond Robinson, and when he lived about, I think it was like 15 to 20 miles from the tunnel. I couldn't really pinpoint the exact spot that he lived, but he was a real person. And when he was very young in 1918, I think he was 6 or 7, he was climbing along the tunnels, because the tunnel was for trains, and there was train tracks above the tunnel, and he was climbing along them when he got snagged by a power line, or he got caught on a power line of some kind, and he was actually electrocuted. He got 22,000 volts through his body, and it literally melting his face off. That's where the thing, like the Charlie No Face comes from, is he literally melted his face. So he lived, he was treated. He was left with no eyes, no nose, only one ear, and only one arm. And as he grew up through the area, people were extremely cruel to him because he was extremely disfigured. So as he got a little bit older into adulthood, he started taking walks at night to stay fit. Like that was just something he really liked to do. It was at night. Not many people saw him. He avoided the ridicule by doing it at night. And he was blind. So day or night didn't really mean much to him. But as he started taking these walks, people started noticing a faceless ghost. And it became a local story among the town he was in and the towns surrounding the stretch of road that he would walk. And eventually people started to come out at night to find Charlie No Face, or the faceless ghost. And it got so bad, up into the 60s, there'd actually be traffic jams along this particular road of everyone trying to come see the faceless ghost, because he was always there. And then once people realized that it was a real person, some people were obviously very mean to him because he's disfigured, and some people would stop and chat with him, and he was Charlie No Face. He was like the figure. And he actually started to make a profit off this legend, and he'd tell people, hey, I'll pose for a picture if you give me some money, or if you give me some cigarettes and beer. Cigarettes and beer was his thing. He always traded for cigarettes and beer.
I saw that too.
So he continued these walks up until he died in 1985. And after his death, his actual story kind of faded, and it was just Charlie No Face. And the original legend of, it was some guy working on a power line, melted his face, died on the tunnel, or at the tunnel. That was it. Him as a person kind of faded away, and then it was used as hey, teenagers, don't go out at night. Charlie No Face is going to get you. It was kind of just heed my warning type thing. But yeah, he was a real person. It's a real tunnel. And he really did get his face melted off, the poor guy.
Right.
So it's said to be, the tunnel is supposed to be haunted by a green apparition. That's the thing that people report the most, is seeing an apparition that's tinged green, because it was said that if you get electrocuted, your skin can be like discolored.
I imagine it'd have like a glow of some
Yeah.
kind.
Yeah. But yeah, that's why it was haunted. And when we were trying to find it, when I was looking at Google reviews to see if somebody had like, hey, if you're into the paranormal, this is what you're trying to find. Because if you look up Green Man's Tunnel, Pennsylvania, the story pops up. Mm-hmm. And there's a tunnel that you can pull up to, but you have to walk up over a hill to get to this tunnel. And it's not functional anymore. It's completely abandoned. I think in the winter they use it for...
They're using it for like salt storage.
Yeah, for the roads. Mm-hmm. So you have to try to find it. Like there's a tunnel you drive up to, but that's not the tunnel that is supposed to be haunted.
I actually read that if you pull your car up to the tunnel and leave it running, that it'll just stall out. Or if you try to start it, it won't turn over. Mm-hmm. So that's not a great time.
Yeah, and that's like that. We were kind of worried about that because there's like nobody out there. Like it's like the park that Google Map took us to is about 2 miles from the actual tunnel. However, it's in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Like
it's like right next to a sewage plant, or like a water treatment facility. But
that's it.
No, yeah, it's trees and hills for miles around.
And I can't imagine that the 2 miles would make a big difference, as opposed to
I highly doubt it.
Right. So that was kind of like, it would like made us nervous, like, shit, is my car
in the
like,
electric car that we have?
Yeah.
Like, is it going to drain the battery? Because we would be
screwed.
all the way screwed if that happened.
Expensive. I have a Prius, for anybody who doesn't know. Don't hate on me.
Environmentally conscious.
Yeah. But that was kind of it for our attempted endeavors of these two places. Like I said, we definitely want to go back. Maybe for like a big podcast milestone, we will take the 6.5 hour drive back to Pennsylvania to try to find something at these places.
Yeah, and we hope that you enjoyed the history.
Yeah, enjoyed our salty podcast episode about it.
Yeah, we're a little bit upset, but sometimes that's going to happen.
Yeah, and like we still wanted to do an episode about it. We've mentioned it before, like even if we don't catch anything, or if something doesn't go well, we still want to talk about our experience we had, the difficulties we've had, or the lack thereof, any haunting. Like we still wanted to do an episode. So I mean, we did the research beforehand and we put in the effort beforehand for it. Might as well finish it out.
Still, it's still spooky.
Still spooky.
Both spaces still have spooky stories that go with them and kind of a creepy history. And so, like we said before, if any of you have any experiences at either one of these locations that you would like to share, we definitely want to hear them. We're very interested to know. We can't wait till we have the experiences of our own.
Yeah, for sure.
But you can reach out to us on any of our social medias. We are on Instagram at Sunday Night Spookies. We're also on Twitter at Sunday Spookies and on Facebook at the Sunday Night Spookies podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Sunday Night Spookies.
Join us next week for our topic episodes all about Ouija boards.
New episodes are released every Sunday evening. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, stay spooky. Da, 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 da.
Spooky!